Have you ever wondered why you walked into someone's life like a strange breeze, like a candle in the night? It wasn't by chance. It wasn't random. The universe rarely sows seeds without meaning. Your presence in their journey was an arrangement, a gift, a blessing. And then the paradox began. You, yes, you, the one they once prayed for, the one they looked up to the heavens hoping to find, were treated like something lifeless, like a thing to try and toss away. They didn't realize that some gifts never come twice, that some presences only appear once. Psalm 25:14 says, "The Lord confides in those who fear him. He makes his covenant known to them." You were a covenant placed in their hands, a sacred opportunity for them to learn how to cherish, how to love, how to see greatness in what seemed ordinary. But that covenant was betrayed. People often believe that a blessing will stay forever, that it will wait patiently, that it won't leave, that it will always be there like the air they breathe. But the truth is, blessings have a soul. They can feel pain, they get tired, and when the disregard becomes too much, they will quietly walk away. You were once their heartbeat in the dark days, the flame that warmed cold hands, the soft song when they were ready to give up. But did they ever truly see you? All they saw was familiarity, something they thought was just there. That is one of life's greatest ironies. People often fail to recognize the value of a gift while it is still right in front of them. You came with gentleness, with unconditional love, with rare loyalty in a world full of betrayal. You came not to take, but to give. Yet what you brought, instead of being treasured, was taken for granted, treated like a priceless gift tossed in a marketplace and bargained over. They didn't understand that the universe has laws of balance. They didn't know that when they heard a gift, they didn't just lose the gift, they lost the right to keep it. Every soul sent into our lives is a messenger. Some come to teach us about love, some come to show us the power of forgiveness, and some, like you, come to open a new gateway, a chance for them to dive deeper into their own soul. But that gateway closed the moment they disrespected you. From that moment on, the story was no longer just about you and them. It became a story of destiny, of karma, of the divine justice the universe always upholds. You may have asked yourself, why was I sent to that place? Why did I bring love and loyalty to a barren land only to receive coldness in return? The answer is not simple, but one thing is always certain. You were never a mistake. Your presence always carried a purpose, even if the ending didn't match your hope. Sometimes, you are the test. Sometimes, you are the mirror that forces someone to face their pride, their selfishness, and the darkness within them. And sometimes, you are the living proof that a soul can love unconditionally, but also knows when it's time to let go. In that journey, you lost nothing. On the contrary, you were given the chance to see yourself more clearly, to understand more deeply the value you bring. A blessing does not lose its worth just because someone failed to appreciate it. A candle does not lose its light just because it was placed in unworthy hands. They may have blown out the flame, but they cannot erase the light that once filled the room. What they lost was the privilege, the right to walk with you, the right to keep you in their story. The universe is just, even when it feels cold. A forgotten blessing becomes a painful lesson, and that lesson is never gentle. You may have left in silence, but that silence echoes like thunder in their life. Because only when you are gone do they truly hear the sound of the presence you once brought. In the moment you walk away, two roads unfold. One for them, the road of regret, emptiness, and unanswered questions. One for you, the road of awakening, of light, of the journey back to your true self. They may try to hold on, but the laws of the universe do not allow a betrayed blessing to return. Like a raindrop falling into a river, you cannot retrieve its original form. Like a breeze passing through the forest, you cannot trap it in the palm of your hand. You are a blessing, and a blessing never belongs to those who take it for granted. There are souls who only know how to receive, but never how to cherish. They see your love, yet treat it like an endless river, drinking from it, using it, enjoying it, without ever thinking that one day that river might run dry. In their eyes, your gentleness became something ordinary. Your presence turned into routine. Your care was no longer seen as a treasure, but like a shadow that simply followed them, needing no attention. What they failed to understand is that you are not a habit. You are a sacred phenomenon. Every glance you gave, every word you spoke, every gentle touch of your care carried a rare energy. An energy powerful enough to transform the space around it. But to those who do not know how to value, such gestures are seen as nothing special, as something they are entitled to. And from that entitlement, arrogance begins to grow. Some people live so long in the land of the ordinary that when something extraordinary enters their life, they have no idea what to do with it. Like someone who has spent a lifetime in darkness, when light suddenly pours in, instead of opening their eyes, they cover them, turn away, and reject it. They cannot tell the difference between what is small and mundane and what is a miracle. So when they faced you, they didn't see something rare. They only saw what they thought was familiar. People often confuse perseverance with passivity. They assume that because you stayed, because you were patient, because you forgave, you would always be there. They treated your presence like a possession that could never be lost. But their greatest mistake was forgetting that even the most beautiful flower will close its petals when it has been stepped on too many times. You gave them your finest gifts: loyalty, tenderness, empathy, and a light that had the power to transform their entire life. That was a rare gift, one not everyone is blessed to receive. Yet they let it slip away. And the most painful part is, not that you left, but that they never truly saw you while you were still there. Your silence after walking away is not just an empty space. It is an alarm bell. In the room once filled with laughter and warmth you brought, now there is only a cold echo. In their quietest moments, the image of you slowly becomes a haunting truth they cannot escape. That they once held something priceless in their hands, and they let it slip through their fingers. The universe does not let such things pass as if they never happened. When you leave, a mark is left behind. That mark comes in the shape of the number 111. This is no random number. 111 is a reminder that a new gateway has opened. It is the number of new beginnings, of rebirth, of a fresh journey waiting ahead. When you see 111, it is not coincidence. It is the universe whispering that you have crossed a threshold. The old chapter is over. Something new is being born. And if, right now in your journey, that number has appeared, on a clock, on a receipt, on a license plate, or in a dream, know that it is confirmation. Confirmation that you have not been lost, but pushed forward towards something greater. You are the soul chosen to move forward, to experience a divine unfolding. If 111 speaks to you, leave that number as a mark in the comments. That act will not only be your own affirmation, but a sign to other souls searching for the same light. Imagine this. When you walk away, leaving behind the regret of those who never learned to appreciate you, you are also opening a new path for yourself. You are not a meaningless figure. You are the light that marks the beginning of a new chapter. Loss is no longer a tragedy. It is the universe's hand guiding you out of a place where you no longer belong, toward where you were always meant to be. They may still believe you'll return. They may tell themselves this is temporary, that you're just upset, that the comfort of the past will pull you back. But they forget, once a blessing is taken for granted, it does not return. Your silence is not a pause, it is the end. And that ending is the beginning of a new paradise made just for you. Soon in their long nights, emptiness will become their companion. They will start to remember every detail. How you looked at them with trust in your eyes. How you listened when the world turned its back. How you gave them what no one else dared to offer. Absolute loyalty. And in those memories, the truth will grow clearer. They let go of a gift that cannot be replaced. But while they drown in regret, you will have stepped into new ground. There, you will find comfort from the universe itself. You will meet souls who see your light from the very first glance. You will witness doors opening, leading you into experiences you once didn't dare believe you deserved. And that is the true gift of 111. The affirmation that you are entering a new chapter where your worth is no longer overlooked, but honored as it always should have been. There are pains that do not scream, do not explode like a storm, but slowly eat away at you, day by day, hour by hour. It is the kind of pain woven from small, seemingly harmless details. A message left unanswered, a distracted glance while you speak, a nod that replaces true understanding. It's not a bleeding wound, but 1,000 fine cuts that make the soul quietly bleed. You were fully present. You gave your heart. And in return, you became invisible. You could sit across from them, look straight into their eyes, and still feel like you were talking to a wall. That feeling of being ignored, dismissed, left alone is the deepest form of abandonment. It doesn't happen when they walk away. It happens while they're still there, still physically present, but their heart has already shut you out. Emotional abandonment is an invisible betrayal. You opened your heart, allowed them in, believed that the sacred space within you would be honored, but instead of protecting it, they turned it into a cold and empty place. You longed for a hug. They gave you a blank stare. You hoped for comfort. They answered with silence. You waited for a sign that you mattered, and all you received was emptiness. The worst pain is not in their leaving, but in their prolonged indifference. The sudden chill of winter is easier to bear than the slow, lingering cold of each passing day. You began to ask yourself, am I asking for too much? Did I do something wrong? But the truth is, those questions never belong to you. Their lack of care is not proof that you were not enough, but proof that they never knew how to love with a full heart. Maybe that's why, deep down, you kept giving. You kept hoping that your patience would reach their heart. But you didn't realize that for someone who doesn't know how to value love, patience only becomes permission. Permission to grow more careless. They believed you would always be there, that you would never leave, and that was their biggest mistake. Do you remember how many times you sat quietly at night, the soft glow of your screen lighting up unread messages, and your heart feeling unbearably heavy? That was the sign of being left behind. Not when they disappeared, but when you felt lonely even with them right next to you. And that left a hollow space, a deep emptiness that made you slowly lose faith in genuine love. But within that emptiness, a truth begins to rise. You deserve more than this. You deserve someone who listens, who values you, who looks into your eyes and sees your soul. And if you are hearing these words, remember that your presence is precious, and no one has the right to make you feel invisible. Maybe you're asking yourself, how do I get through this pain? How do I find my strength after being abandoned like this? The answer lies in these very words. As you listen, you are not alone. There are thousands of souls out there who have felt, are feeling, or will feel the same pain. And it is this connection, this shared journey of healing, that will help you see that you are not lost. So if this story touches something in your heart, let even a small action become a sacred act. Press like, because it's more than a tap on a screen. It's a sign that you're part of this current of light. Share it so that others, those silently enduring emotional neglect, may find this guiding spark. And, if you haven't already, subscribe, because this could become the place you return to when your heart feels tired, a spiritual home where your story is heard. It's no coincidence that you're here, listening to these words. The universe brought you here to remind you that you are not an invisible soul. You are a flame waiting to shine again. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." That reminder is not just comfort, it is confirmation that the joy, the love, the wholeness you seek will never come from someone who disregards you, but from the one who always sees your worth, even when the world turns away. And one day, when you look back, you will see that abandonment was not the end. It was simply the door that led you to a new chapter, one where someone truly sees who you are, where companionship is no longer a performance, where eyes are no longer empty, but filled with recognition and love. You are not someone who was abandoned. You are someone who was chosen to awaken. And this very moment, this very pain, is leading you closer to that truth. There are wounds that don't show on the skin, don't bleed, and don't leave scars that others can see. But they live in the mind, quietly eroding your trust, your self-worth, and every spark of light you once had. These are the most dangerous wounds. Psychological wounds born from indifference, from being disregarded, from emotional abandonment. You begin to ask yourself, am I not good enough? Is it my fault? These questions become invisible needles, piercing your heart every time night falls. You replay every conversation, recall every glance, analyze every little detail from the past, searching for a reason, a logical explanation. But the more you search, the more lost you feel. This is the cruel game of the mind. It turns meaningless moments into evidence against yourself. One time you laughed too loudly, you wonder if it annoyed them. One time you were quiet, you think maybe they felt distant. One time you gave too much, and now you fear you became a burden. Suddenly, innocent actions become reasons to blame yourself. But the truth is, you were never wrong. What you gave was love, was care, was sincerity. If there was any fault, it was theirs. The fault of not seeing it, of not being mature enough to receive it. And yet, the paradox is that you're the one who suffers. You carry the weight of self-blame, while they walk away as if nothing ever happened. This is the brutality of emotional wounds. They don't just hurt. They make you believe you deserve the pain. They plant seeds of doubt, and from those seeds grows a forest of shadows, blocking the light within you. You look into the mirror and see a tired face. But the exhaustion isn't in your eyes or skin. It's in the lost look that no longer knows where to go. There are nights you lie down but cannot sleep. Your mind plays like a movie on loop, showing you the same scenes over and over. You hear their voice in your head, see their smile, and then suddenly see the cold, distant eyes. It all becomes a spiral, pulling you deeper into doubt and sorrow. But pause for a moment and listen. Do you realize that the depth of your pain reveals something else? You are affected not because you are weak, but because you loved deeply. You gave your heart completely, and that is not weakness. That is strength. Because only the brave dare to open their heart so fully to another. The problem was never that you loved wrong. The problem was that they weren't ready to receive the love you offered. Psychological wounds make you question your worth. You begin to compare yourself to others. You tell yourself, maybe they'd be happier with someone else. Maybe I'm not attractive enough, not smart enough, not interesting enough. But hear this, the light of a candle never loses its value just because someone failed to see it. A gem does not lose its worth just because it ended up in the hands of someone blind. What you need is not to change who you are, but to learn how to see yourself through the eyes of love and respect. Emotional pain only has power when you let it tell a false story about you. But when you begin to rewrite that story, everything changes. Imagine your mind as a house. That person came in, broke your vase, dirtied your floor, disrupted everything. And then they left, leaving behind the mess. You can sit among the ruins and cry, or you can begin to clean up, piece by piece. You wipe the floor. You bring in a new vase. You open the windows and let the light pour in. At first, it's exhausting. But slowly, the house will shine again. Cleaner, brighter, more beautiful than before. That is healing. The universe does not let a strong soul like yours stay in the dark forever. Every storm comes only to cleanse, and soon, the sky will be blue again. Psychological wounds may make you feel like you've lost yourself, but believe this, within that loss, a new self is being born. One that is stronger, wiser, and more aware of its true worth. Don't be afraid of the darkness around you. It is only in darkness that light becomes clear. One day, you will look back and see that every doubt, every sleepless night, every spiral of the mind, all of it was preparing you to stand firmer. That person may never realize it, but they became the catalyst for your transformation. They planted pain, and the universe turned it into strength. And when you walk out of this dark room, you won't be the same. You will be someone forged in fire, a soul that walked through shadow and learned to find light from within. So if you are hearing these words and your heart is still bleeding, know this. You are in the middle of the process. You're not at the beginning anymore, but you haven't reached the end yet. You are on the healing path, and every step you take, even the trembling ones, holds meaning, emptiness. That's what they never anticipated. When you were still there, your presence was so familiar, so close, so everyday, that they believed it would always be. But when you grew silent, when your footsteps no longer paused at their doorstep, when your warmth vanished from the room once filled with laughter, they began to feel something unbearable: your absence. Your absence wasn't like a guest leaving. It was the extinguishing of a light that once illuminated the entire house. It was the sudden silence of an instrument in an orchestra, leaving behind a harsh void. And in that silence, memories of you returned, clearer than ever before. They began to remember the things they never paid attention to. The way you smiled at their silly stories. The way you always placed an extra glass of water nearby because you knew they'd get thirsty at night. The way you listened even when you were hurting too. All those little things now become sharp blades cutting into their heart because they are no longer there. They sit in that quiet room and finally realize it was you who breathed life into that space. You were the soul of every moment, the one who turned four walls into a home. Not them, not anyone else. You. And now, without you, the walls are just cold concrete, and the emptiness is nothing but void. Regret is a heavy guest that always arrives too late. It doesn't knock. It floods in, choking the air. They begin to remember all the times they overlooked you, the messages left unanswered, the moments you longed for recognition and received only empty stares. They begin to understand that your patience was not endless, that your gentleness was not unconditional, that your love was not an infinite well they could keep drawing from without ever giving back. And then, in a quiet moment, they will ask themselves, what if I had cherished it? What if I had listened? What if I had held on? Would things be different? But what if is now just a whisper in an empty room. There is no going back. The door is closed. You have stepped into a new chapter, and they have been left behind. That regret, as painful as it is part of the law of universal balance, because no one can overlook a blessing and not pay the price. And the cost is not just losing your presence, but losing the chance to grow, to heal, to evolve alongside you. While they are consumed by the weight of what is too late, you are being comforted by the universe. Psalm 34-18 rises like a promise made just for you. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Yes, when your heart shattered, you were never alone. There is a divine presence that gathers your broken pieces and holds them with a tenderness far greater than any human love can offer. That verse is not just a comfort. It is proof that even if they failed to see your worth, there is one who sees you completely. One whose love does not judge, does not abandon, does not turn cold. And that love is the very force now nurturing you in a season where you once thought everything was lost. While you are being held, they must face a bitter lesson. They will begin to compare. Every person they meet afterward, no matter how good, will never be you. Because each soul is unique, and what you gave can never be replicated. They will come to understand that your gentleness wasn't just action, it was energy. And once that energy is gone, it leaves a void that cannot be filled. Picture someone who once held a precious gem in their hands, but threw it carelessly into a dark corner. When the light finally shines and they see how brilliantly that gem glows, it's too late. The gem now belongs to someone else, or has returned to a place where only the truly deserving may find it. That is the lateness they must face. Perhaps they will try to reach out, try to return, try to apologize. But an apology is never enough to reclaim what has been lost. Because once a heart has learned the pain of being taken for granted, there is no space left for returning. You may forgive, but forgiveness does not mean reopening the door. Forgiveness is freedom for you, and the emptiness they created is theirs to carry. While they struggle in their regret, you begin to rise. You realize that leaving was not failure, it was liberation. You understand that sometimes the universe lets you be broken so it can guide you to where you truly belong. Their regret is the sign that you were right to walk away. They may spend a lifetime thinking of you, comparing every new relationship to you, endlessly searching for the light they once had in you. But that is no longer your story. Your story is now one of new light, a new journey, a new beginning. And their story, it will forever be marked by an unforgettable lesson. Never take a blessing for granted. The universe holds an unshakable law. Every seed that is sown will eventually sprout, whether sooner or later. People may forget, may try to hide it, may pretend it never happened, but the justice of the higher realm never sleeps. And one day, the wheel of karma begins to turn. They once believed your silence meant nothing. They once thought your patience was endless. They assumed they could abandon you, then return whenever they pleased, as if your heart were just a room that would always stay open. But when you walked away, when the light you carried left their space, a shadow began to spread. At first, they didn't notice. They thought it was just a momentary emptiness, something time would heal. But darkness has a nature of its own. It doesn't stay still. It spreads, slowly seeping into every corner. They begin to experience the very things you once endured, the indifference from others, the unanswered messages they now send, the emotionless eyes of those from whom they seek recognition, that feeling of being overlooked, abandoned, treated like a temporary choice. It is the mirror reflecting what they once did to you, and it's no coincidence. It is a lesson. The invisible hand of karma gentle but firm, placing them exactly where they need to be to feel what you felt. When you were there, they failed to see the value of patience, of genuine love, of rare loyalty. Now they crave those very things, but from people who can never give it to them. They learn that not everyone is willing to go the extra mile. Not everyone has the heart to listen in dark times. Not everyone will make them a priority. In that emptiness, they begin to remember you. How you stayed when the world walked away. How you gave without demanding. How you forgave even when your wounds were still fresh. And in the weight of that memory, the truth cuts deep. They lost the most precious thing they ever had. As they regret, the universe continues teaching them another truth. Loss never stands still. It creates a void, and that void begins to attract more of the same. Some call it reverse attraction. You reap what you sow. They sowed carelessness, and now they harvest the same. They sowed abandonment, and now they are left behind. They sowed disregard, and now they are dismissed. There will be nights when they sit alone, staring at their phone, hoping for a message to come. But the screen stays dark, and in that silence, they'll remember the nights you waited, and realize that silence has become their rightful consequence. Karma doesn't come to punish. It comes to teach. It doesn't aim to hurt, but to awaken. Yet the lessons often come written in the language of pain, because only pain can pierce the pride that shields the human heart. Meanwhile, you, the one who once endured the cold, have grown stronger. The pain you lived through was not meaningless. It became the seed sown into your soul, from which grew branches of resilience, self-respect, and new light. They remain trapped in their old cycle, while you walk a new path, one brighter and steadier than ever before. You may still carry wounds, but look closely. Those wounds have become openings for light to enter. Had you never been abandoned, you would not have learned that you deserve more. Had you never been disregarded, you would not have discovered your true worth. Had you never walked through darkness, you would never have realized just how powerful your inner light island. They call it the price to pay. But in truth, that price is not just theirs to bear. It's also your reward. Because as karma turns, you begin to see the justice of the universe, and you realize you were never alone. You were being protected, guided, and lifted. Picture the great wheel of justice turning, slowly but surely. With every rotation, roles shift. Those who once stood high now feel the fall. Those once stepped on are now being lifted. It is the eternal balance, and no one escapes it. And now, as they writhe in their regret, you walk with lighter steps. You understand now, you were never the victim. You were the witness of divine justice. You are the living proof that blessings cannot be destroyed. They simply leave where they are not honored, to find soil where they can truly bloom. Karma does not return to balance the scales for your sake. It returns so they may learn a lesson they will never forget. Never take a blessing for granted, because the price will always be greater than they ever imagined. There are wounds that can never be seen by the naked eye, yet they weigh heavier than any cut. These are the cracks in the heart, the scars in memory, the shadows within the soul, born from coldness, indifference, and being dismissed. On the outside, others may see you smile, live, and keep moving forward. But only you know the nights you had to hold yourself just to keep from falling apart. Emotional abandonment doesn't leave a momentary sting. It leaves marks like invisible tattoos. You begin to question everything. You wonder, does anyone truly see me? Does anyone really listen? Is anyone patient enough to stay? Each question feels like a stone, adding weight to your shoulders, making you feel exhausted even when you do nothing at all. There are days when you don't want to open your heart anymore. You build high walls, hoping that behind them, at least you'll feel safe. You become cautious, guarded, looking at someone's smile and asking yourself, are they genuine, or is this just another act? That's what emotional wounds do. They strip you of your innocence, turning you into someone who is constantly on guard in your own journey. But the most painful part isn't losing faith in others. It's the way it shakes how you see yourself. You used to be confident. You knew you were worthy. You lived with an open heart. But somewhere along the way, you started to question your value. You began to ask if you were even lovable, if you were worthy of a place in someone's heart. This is when pain turns into darkness, not only stealing your trust in others, but also trying to take away the trust you have in yourself. There are nights when the world is silent, Yet the noise inside you is louder than anything outside. That noise brings back memories. The time you were left alone when you needed comfort. The time you cried but no one wiped your tears. The time you called out but only silence answered. These moments repeat like echoes, becoming haunting. And then you realize emotional wounds don't just live in memories. They live inside you, like shadows, always lurking. But even in the darkness, another truth waits to be heard. Psalm 147:3 rises like a warm breeze. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That promise is not just a distant idea. It is a reality you can feel. Every time you thought you were about to collapse, there was an unseen hand lifting you up. Every time you felt shattered, there was a gentle presence gathering your pieces, fitting them back together with more care than any human love ever could. Think about it. How many times did you believe you couldn't go on, yet still woke up, still stepped outside, still breathed? That isn't just your strength. That's a divine support flowing through you, even when you couldn't see it. You might call it God, or the universe, or simply a higher power. But what's certain is this: you have never walked alone. Emotional wounds may cause you to close off, but they also teach you something vital: how to love yourself. When you realize others may leave, you are forced to learn how to stay. When you understand not everyone will listen, you begin to hear your own inner voice. And that is the first step to healing, returning to yourself. You cannot change the past. You cannot erase the memories that once hurt you. But you can change what they mean. Scars don't just remind you of pain. They are proof that you survived. Wounds are not just losses. They are places where light enters and transforms you into someone stronger. Look back for a moment. You've endured coldness, dismissal, and abandonment. And you're still here. That means there's a strength inside you that even you haven't fully discovered. Emotional pain does not define you as weak. It proves that you have loved deeply, that you dared to open your heart, that you were brave enough to live a life without hiding. And anyone who can love that deeply has the power to heal just as deeply. One day, when you look back, you will see that this wound was not a curse, but a hidden gift. It taught you to tell the difference between real love and performance. It gave you eyes to see true souls in a world full of masks. It made you stronger than anyone could have imagined. You may still carry scars, but remember, even scars can become beautiful stories if you let them remind you that you walked through darkness and found your way back to light. In the darkness of the wound, a question begins to echo. Who am I without the recognition of others? Do I still have worth when I'm dismissed and abandoned? That question is the beginning of a new journey. The journey to rediscover your own value. You once placed too much weight on their gaze, their words, the way they treated you. When they smiled, you felt lovable. When they were silent, you felt invisible. When they turned away, you felt worthless. But the truth is, the light within you never depended on anyone's gaze. It was always there, even when they couldn't see it. You are the sky, and they were just someone standing in a dark room with the window shut, concluding that there is no Sunday. The mistake wasn't in the light. It was in the eyes that refused to open. Their disregard was never proof that you weren't good enough. It simply reflected the smallness of their soul. Someone who has never learned to love themselves will never know how to love another. A heart still wrapped in the darkness of selfishness can never recognize the gentleness you gave. So stop measuring your worth with the broken ruler in their hands. Remember, before you met them, you were already a whole soul. You already carried beautiful qualities: kindness, patience, creativity, empathy. You didn't become more valuable because they were there, and you don't become any less because they left. Your worth is constant. It does not rise or fall based on anyone's recognition. Maybe during the days of abandonment, you forgot that. You looked in the mirror and saw a tired face, lost eyes, and believed that was who you really were. But look closer. Behind the dust of your tears, the light is still there. That light never went out. It was only covered. And now you have the chance to clear it away and see yourself again. Think of the times you helped others without expecting anything. Remember the moments you laughed from the heart and lit up the room. Remember how you kept loving, even when you were hurting. All of that is proof that you've always had worth. A kind of worth that can never be denied. You don't need anyone else's confirmation. Your very existence is confirmation enough. A flower doesn't need praise to bloom. It blooms because that is its nature. A star doesn't need recognition to shine. It shines because that is its purpose. And you too. You don't need anyone's permission to be worthy. You have always been worthy from the very moment you were born. When you begin to see this, abandonment no longer has the same power. It no longer proves you were not enough. It only proves they weren't enough to see you, and that is no longer your burden to carry. That is their lesson to learn. Rediscovering your value also means setting new boundaries. You stop letting others define you. You stop seeking love from closed doors. You learn to say no to what doesn't deserve you. And every time you draw a line, you are rewriting your story. From being dismissed to becoming someone who stands in self-worth. Imagine yourself as a clear crystal. When it's thrown into mud, it's still a crystal. The mud may cover its beauty, but it doesn't change its essence. Once cleaned, the light shines again, even brighter for having endured. That is who you are now. The wound did not destroy you. It only made your beauty more real, more profound. It may take time. You may stumble many times as you learn to stand on your own feet. But trust that every step, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to your soul's center. And once you return, you'll never let anyone else define your worth again. You are not someone's temporary option. You are not a backup plan. You are a blessing. You are the answer to someone's prayer. And if someone fails to see that, it is their loss, never your lack. Let this truth be etched into your heart. My worth is not found in someone else's eyes, but in the eternal light of my soul. Every time doubt returns, whisper it to yourself as a reminder. Because the truth is, you were never not enough. You have always been enough, and you always will be. Every pain carries within it a message. At first, all you see are the tears, the emptiness, the suffocating long nights. But with time, as the fog begins to lift, you start to realize that what happened didn't come just to hurt you. It came to teach you a lesson no one else could have taught. The first lesson is about boundaries. Before, you opened your heart too easily, forgave too quickly, believed too much that love alone could heal everything. You gave so much that sometimes you forgot yourself. But now, after everything, you've learned that love cannot exist without boundaries. Because boundaries are not walls that block love, they are gates that protect value. When you say no to what is undeserving, you are not rejecting love. You are protecting your heart so it still has space for real love. The second lesson is about resilience. Maybe you once thought, I'll never survive this pain. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still standing, still moving forward. And that proves you are stronger than you believed. It was the breaking that taught you how to rise. It was the darkness that helped you discover the quiet flame within. Now, you no longer fear the storms because you know you've survived worse than this before. The third lesson is about awareness. After being overlooked and dismissed, you've become more sensitive to signs. You can see the difference between sincere eyes and pretending ones. You can hear in someone's voice whether they speak with respect or condescension. You can tell which promises are true and which are just empty echoes. Because your heart, shaped by pain, has become a finely tuned compass. It knows which direction is safe and which one is dangerous. On this journey, a number begins to appear, 777. You might see it on receipts, on license plates, on the clock. You might hear it mentioned in passing. At first, you think it's coincidence, but your soul senses something deeper. 777 is the symbol of awakening. It is the universe's way of confirming that your soul is entering a phase of spiritual opening. These are no longer small lessons. This is a new level of consciousness. 777 carries the energy of completeness and divinity. Like the 7 days of creation, the 7 musical notes that make up a symphony, the 7 colors of the rainbow that appear after the rain. When you see 777, it is a reminder that your painful journey was not in vain. It's part of a greater plan, a chain of events leading you to profound growth. 777 is also a message that you are being guided, protected, and accompanied by higher energies you cannot see with your eyes. If right now, in this very moment, you feel a connection to 777, leave that number in the comments. Because when you do, you are affirming that you are ready to step into this new phase, ready to receive deeper, more meaningful lessons. And that affirmation becomes a light for others walking through their own darkness, letting them know they are not alone. Your growth is not just in surviving the pain, it's in turning pain into power. You no longer see the past as a wound, but as a book. Each scar is a chapter, each tear is a line, and together they write your story of strength. You no longer crave validation to prove your worth. You don't need praise, or a hug, or recognition to know that you are worthy. Because you've seen your own strength in the mirror. You've felt your resilience in every step forward. You've heard your soul whisper, I am still here. I never left you. And that is the greatest maturity. When you stop seeking love as salvation and begin to live love as your natural essence, when that happens, you no longer fear abandonment because you know you were never truly alone. You no longer fear being overlooked because you've realized your value never depended on anyone else. You no longer fear the darkness, because even in the dark, 777 can appear to remind you that light is always present. Etch this truth into your heart. Every pain is a lesson. Every lesson is a step toward growth. And every step brings you closer to the truth of your soul. Something remarkable happens after you walk through the darkness. Your heart is not only healed, it expands. The pain that once made you want to close off now becomes a bridge that connects you with other souls. You've tasted what it feels like to be overlooked, abandoned, treated as something temporary. And because of that, you can now recognize the same pain in others, even when they hide it behind a smile. The compassion within you is no longer pity. It is understanding. It is the ability to see through the masks and touch the trembling part of someone's heart, because you know exactly what that feeling is like. You've lived in it, breathed in it, cried through it. And now, that deep understanding has become a light, not just to guide yourself, but to help others find their way. Think back to the last time you saw someone smiling, but their eyes looked sad. Maybe then, you didn't notice. But now, you see the disconnect between their smile and their gaze. You hear the unspoken words in their silence. You feel the shaky heartbeat hidden beneath their strong exterior. That is the gift pain has given you. Ears that truly hear, eyes that see deeper, and a heart that understands. Before, you might have looked away like everyone else, but not now. Now, you cannot turn your back when you see a soul fading, because you once wished for a hand to reach out, for eyes that truly saw you, for a voice to say, I understand, I'm here. And since you didn't have that, you chose to become that for someone else. This new compassion does not make you weak. On the contrary, it makes you stronger, because only a heart that has once been shattered can hold enough space to embrace the pain of many. You are no longer afraid of tears. You no longer shy away from wounds. Instead of retreating, you lean in. Instead of avoiding, you extend your hand. And in that moment, you realize your pain was never meaningless. It has become a language, a bridge, a river flowing from your heart to another. Imagine this. You were once a seed crushed in the storm. But from that crack, a new sprout emerged, reaching upward. And now that you've become a tree, your shade begins to shelter other seeds. You no longer live only for yourself. Your experiences have become a refuge for other souls. Sometimes, you'll meet people who are exactly where you once stood, confused, lost, drained of hope. You'll hear them ask the same questions you once whispered to yourself. Am I enough? Do I deserve love? And you will be able to answer with the certainty of someone who has walked that road. Yes, you are always enough. You are always worthy. These words, spoken from your mouth, won't be theory. They'll be truth born from lived experience. Because you remember what it felt like to doubt your worth, and you also remember the moment you rediscovered it. The miracle is, every time you offer compassion, you're healed a little more. Each time you embrace a soul in pain, you are also embracing your past self. Each time you lift someone up, you are lifting a part of yourself too. Pain is no longer a burden. It has become your power source. And this compassion brings you another gift. Real connection. Because now, living from a heart that has been tested, you no longer attract shallow relationships. You are no longer drawn to empty promises. You are no longer fooled by artificial light. The people who come into your life now are souls who recognize the true light in you. They don't need you to pretend to be strong. because they know the real strength lies in the vulnerability that became power. And you will see, maybe for the first time in a long while, that you are no longer alone. You enter relationships where giving and receiving flow like two rivers merging into one vast ocean. You no longer need to scream to be heard. They listen even in silence. You no longer have to beg to be seen. Their eyes saw you from the very beginning. This new compassion is proof that you've undergone a transformation. From victim to healer, from the abandoned to the bearer of light. And in this journey, you come to see a profound truth. Pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to expand your heart so you could love deeper, understand more fully, and connect more truly. When a heart has walked through heartbreak, learned how to heal, and begun to recognize its own worth, something fundamental shifts. You start to redefine the relationships around you. No more blind attachment. No more fear of loneliness making you hold on to those who don't deserve you. Now you know what you need, what you deserve, and you will never again lower your soul's standard to settle for anything halfway. You look back and realize there were connections that only survived because you kept pumping life into them while the other side remained hollow. There were relationships where you had to shrink yourself, dim your light, just to make others comfortable. There were times you told yourself, "At least I have someone," while deep down you knew it was only an illusion. Now, you no longer live in that illusion. One thing you've certainly learned: no relationship is worth more than the peace in your soul. You would rather walk alone on a path of light than stay in a dark room with those who do not value you. And in this choice, you discover a kind of freedom you've never known before. The freedom to live honestly, the freedom to be selective, the freedom to walk alongside those who match your frequency. Psalm 118:8 says, "It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man." This verse rings like a wake-up call, and also a compass for your journey, because now you understand, if you place all your trust in people, you will always risk being hurt. But if you anchor yourself in the one who created you, if your roots are grounded in divine love, you will never be shaken, no matter who comes or goes. With this scripture as your foundation, you begin to let go. You release the relationships that drained your heart. You release the connections based on need, not on mutual respect. You release those who made you feel invisible, even when you were right there in front of them. And with every release, you feel lighter. In that lightness, you create space for something new, something pure, something aligned. Redefining relationships doesn't mean closing your heart. On the contrary, it means opening your heart with intention. You no longer let just anyone step in and occupy the sacred space within you. You now know that the heart is a temple, and not everyone deserves to stand on its altar. You have become the gatekeeper of your own soul. And in this awakened state, you begin to attract a different kind of person. They don't come to take, they come to share. They don't drain you, they build with you. They don't make you constantly prove your worth. They see it from the beginning. These relationships don't need to be loud, but they are deep. They don't need to be flashy, but they are steady. You now understand. Real love never asks you to dim your light. It makes you shine brighter. True friendship never makes you doubt yourself. It uplifts and encourages you to become your best self. A true community never stifles your uniqueness. It honors it as an essential part of the whole. You may find yourself with fewer relationships now, but those few bring more peace than a sea of shallow connections ever could. Quality matters more than quantity. Sincerity matters more than appearances. And soul connection matters more than any worldly condition. You've also come to understand you don't need to hate or resent those from the past. They played their part in an old chapter. They came to teach you something, to help you redefine, and then they moved on. Their departure was not a loss. It was a purification. You thank them quietly, and then you keep walking. The beautiful thing is, when you live this way, you inspire others. Those still stuck in toxic relationships will see you and realize there is another way. There is another choice. They will see that the courage to let go can open doors to something far better. And just by living in alignment with this new standard, you become a light that leads the way. Remember this. Redefining relationships isn't just about who stays in your life. It's about how you treat yourself. When you love yourself enough to say no to what doesn't deserve you, you are teaching the world how to treat you. When you set your standards, You're not only protecting your soul, you're setting a new frequency that only those in harmony will respond to. And in that frequency, you no longer have to shout to be heard. You no longer have to prove yourself to be seen. You simply show up, and they will see you, because what is meant for you will always recognize you. There comes a moment, after the long, shadowed days, when you realize you have changed. No longer the one who trembled at being abandoned. No longer the soul aching to be seen and valued. Now, you are a different version of yourself. Stronger, clearer, freer. The pain no longer chains you. It has become your wings. And in that moment, you know, you have truly been set free. Liberation is not just walking away from a person, a relationship, or a memory. Liberation is choosing to no longer let the past control the present. It's when you stop letting your wounds define your worth. It's when you dare to look in the mirror and see a soul no longer imprisoned by someone's gaze or words. You begin to live differently. Each morning, instead of focusing on what you've lost, you think about what's waiting ahead. With each step, instead of fearing past mistakes, you see yourself walking a new path. With a wider, clearer vision, you feel the lightness in your breath, as if the weight has finally lifted from your shoulders. That freedom leads to something extraordinary: rebirth. Rebirth is not about becoming someone else, but about returning to who you truly are, the pure version of yourself, untouched by fear or unworthiness. You are reborn in the knowing that you were always enough, always radiant, always chosen from the beginning, like a bird once caged. The moment the door opens, it doesn't just fly. It remembers that flying is its nature. And so do you. This rebirth doesn't give you something new. It simply returns to you what was always yours: your confidence, your belief in love, your connection to the sacred light within. Listen to the whisper deep inside. You were never abandoned. You were simply being led to where you truly belong. And as those words echo within you, you understand everything that happened was not meaningless. The disregard you endured, the abandonment you experienced, the regret they now carry, they were all just pages in a greater book, a story whose final chapter is always light. Psalm 32:11 once said, "You turned my mourning into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy." That verse now reflects your reality. The pain has become a song. The scars have become a crown. The tears have become light to guide your path. You now walk with a new kind of strength. Not the strength of someone who never falls, but the strength of someone who dares to fall and rise again. You know there will still be challenges, still be winters ahead, but you are no longer afraid, because you have tasted the deepest cold and still found the light within yourself. This rebirth also makes you a mirror. Others look at you and realize they too can rise. They too can heal. They too can be reborn. You don't have to say much. The way you live becomes the testimony, a living proof that darkness does not have the final word, and that every soul holds the power to transcend its circumstances. And so, your story is no longer just your own. It becomes part of something larger, the story of souls who knew pain but didn't collapse, who faced loss but never lost hope, who were chosen and dared to walk in that divine calling. You have been set free, you have been reborn, and now you step into a new chapter, one of freedom, of light, of true love. If these words speak to you, if you feel you are on your own journey of liberation and rebirth, leave your mark in the comments. Write that you are ready to live as your true self, no longer confined, no longer bound, no longer doubting your worth. And if this journey lifts your spirit, press like as a confirmation that your light is rising again. Share this message so that others, those still wandering in the dark, can find their guiding flame. And if you wish to continue walking this path of healing and awakening, subscribe, so that whenever you need, you'll know there's always a place to return to. This journey is not over. It's just beginning. But one thing is certain. You are no longer who you once were. You have changed. You have been set free. You have been reborn. May peace walk with you in every step, in every breath, in every moment. And remember, you are the light. You are the blessing. You are living proof of the miracle that a soul can never be extinguished. Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.